Welcome to Creating a Life in Music. My name is Mike Salo. I'm a guitarist and music educator from Minneapolis, Minnesota in the US, and I want to know how other musicians make their living, how they got there, how they sustain it, and most importantly, the insights and tips they may have for the rest of us. I interview musicians from all over the world, from various parts of the music industry to break down the question, how do I do music full time? So join me as we discover the many different ways to create a life in music. If you're a guitar player who's ever wanted to attend music college but couldn't because it's too expensive or too far away, or maybe you're just beyond that point in your life and you're just too busy with your own family and your own career to commit to something like that, I would highly recommend going and checking out fretboardbiology.com. At only $29 a month, Fretboard Biology takes out all the guesswork, putting the right things in the right order. It's highly structured, highly organized, college-level guitar program designed by one of the top guitar educators on the planet, Joe Elliott. Joe was head of the guitar department at McNally Smith for a number of years, where he designed the entire guitar curriculum, as well as being head over at Musicians Institute in Hollywood for many, many years. He knows what you need to know. And you can get 50% off your first month when you go to fretboardbiology.com/register-salo, my last name, that's S-A-L-O-W. So fretboardbiology.com/register-salo. Yeah, man. So what group are you playing with?
Well, at the moment,
touring.
What I'm preparing for is the first solo tour that I ever did in my entire life, which will be really cool. That one starts in 1 month on September 27th until I think October 8th or 10th or something like that, which will be in Europe. And aside from that, I've been playing for a band for 10 years now. That's kind of funny because it's one of the biggest acts in Austria and also southern Germany, but no one outside of this bubble has ever heard of it because they're singing in Austrian German, so not even the northern German people understand it. It's a very specific dialect. And they got kind of lucky and put out one record that's, I think, 5 times platinum now in Austria.
Jeez.
And it's still in the charts 10 years after in the top 40. They kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole Austrian thing. So I've been doing that for the last almost 10 years, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I've seen that. Like you do a lot, man. Like from what I can tell, which I really admire. Because it's just, I literally watch you and I'm like, how is this guy doing so much? Like because you're putting out because you put out really great content for like YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff, and a lot of long form stuff that I can only imagine is very time consuming among touring with that group. Because I've seen a lot of stuff on your social media of you being out on tour. How do you manage doing all these things? Does it feel like you're doing a lot, or does it feel like not? It just feels normal.
Well, for me, it's kind of normal. Most people say it's not really, but in my case, this was just always what I did. I guess 15 years back or something. All of that used to be a hobby, and now what I do for work is basically my hobby and what I like to do. So I never really feel like, okay, I work for 8 hours and then I enjoy the rest of the day, because what I would do in the rest of the day is now what I do in the main time of the day, kind of. So what helps is getting up early for me. I get up at 4:30 a.m. to start practicing, and I just work until 6 or 7 p.m. until my girlfriend tells me it's enough, and should spend some time with her, of course, which I love doing. But it's never, I don't know. I think it's for a lot of people that kind of turn their passion into a job or into the main thing that they're doing. I think at least to the people I talked with, for them, it's all kind of difficult to follow this 8 or 9 hour work day because you're just so passionate about it and you just want to do that all day. And like you mentioned, the thing with me is that it's all very different. Making a YouTube video or playing shows or making a video for Patreon, which is more the educational stuff that I do, is all very different. So I never looked at the clock so far. That's
Okay.
a thing that I remember a lot because I used to work call center jobs
Oh yeah.
to support all that, where you look at the clock and you think like, 30 minutes, I got 30 minutes at least, and then okay, no, it's just 2 minutes went by.
Yeah.
And, so it's not like that anymore, at least.
Yeah. So are those, would you say those are like your three big focuses, is like the gigging, touring, the content creation, and then the educational Patreon stuff? Are you doing, do you do private one-on-one stuff, or is it really those big three?
No, I haven't done private stuff for 5 or 6 years now, because it was kind of the decision, either I get to help a handful of people every month, or I can make one video that maybe helps a lot of people. So that makes a bit more sense to me. The main focus at the moment is releasing a new song every week. That's the challenge for this year. That's been going pretty well, and it's been very, very interesting. That's just something I wanted to try, because with platforms like Spotify, it's shifting a lot to those music platforms actually turning into social media platforms. Where
I've noticed that. Yeah.
For sure. As an artist, you have followers over there, just like on Instagram or Spotify or on YouTube or whatever. And it would be weird if you compare that Spotify to YouTube, for example, if you would release 12 YouTube videos every 2 years at the same time, which is kind of what an album is for Spotify nowadays. It just feels right to me, or it makes more sense to try to release a song every single week like you would do with a YouTube video or with Instagram. And that's kind of the main focus, and it's been really, really exciting for me to do that.
Yeah. And then, so when you do these, was it a conscious decision to kind of go like, all right, I'm going to make music, do the thing I love, but I need to somehow tie in some sort of something that people can latch onto that's unique for each song? Like I saw the water in the acoustic. So are you literally just brainstorming like, all right, I have this idea for a song. What's the thing I can do to make it unique for social media? Is that a thought process? Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's exactly the other way around for some weird reason, because I always try to think what, especially on YouTube, that's what I learned the hard way, is that you always, at least nowadays, have to think starting from the video title and the thumbnail, and then you can start thinking about how am I going to make this video.
Okay.
Because if you mess that up, I mean, it's you do have a loyal fan base at one point of people that will watch every video, but it's not all the almost 1 million subscribers that I have now that are tuning in every single time. It would be nice, but I'm sure you know the feeling of opening the YouTube feed and you get, I don't know, 20, 30 videos recommended, and they're all interesting because YouTube knows what you're interested in. So if you as a creator don't have a great idea that can compete with those amazing videos that get suggested to people, you're not going to have a chance, especially if you're for a song, it's often a bit difficult to hold people's attention all the way through or to get people to click on it. So it has to be something that's interesting. And with the water one, I mean, I did 2 of those already, and those always work pretty great. Because I always had this intrusive thought when I looked at my acoustic guitar, because there's a hole. What happens if you fill it with water? And I never did it. And I had this decided to try it out one day, and apparently a lot of people have asked themselves this question, and that kind of worked out. And if there's a good song tied to that, it never works. If you have a great idea and the song isn't that great, then the video might get some views, but people don't listen to the song. But sometimes, like you mentioned with the water one, kind of all those puzzle pieces fit together, and it's just a great way to promote a song, to somehow get people interested in clicking on that. And if they like it, they will also listen to it disconnected from the video, so that it's not just some kind of hype video that doesn't have any lasting effect. I see that with people that continue to listen to the song for almost a year now, I think. I did that. I started in October, actually, with that stuff.
So taking the concept and then going like, how can I make this and do a great song that is me? And by using that concept as like a lift-off point and click point.
Exactly. Yeah. That's, I think I don't know if I don't want to say that I'm the guy that invented all of this. We all know how YouTube works, and that you need an interesting thumbnail and an interesting title. But I think in the music world, I would love to see it more from people to think about it, because I talk to a lot of younger bands, because the management that's managing the Austrian band I'm playing for has a lot of awesome young bands signed. And they all see YouTube as this thing where you have to have a cinematic music video that costs like $10,000-$15,000 to make. And then, I don't know, you need some ad budget to boost it, kind of. And it would be just great for me to see more musicians going into this direction of just working really hard on an idea, just sitting down for 2 days with a blank sheet of paper and trying to figure out what would get someone to click on that video and to listen to a band that you never heard of, because most of us don't really go on YouTube and look for new bands and just click on random band names. Even if it's a cinematic music video, you don't even know that it's a cinematic one if you don't click on it. So I hope I can inspire people a little bit to try that out, because for me it's been really, really great so far.
Yeah. I think there's cognitive dissonance with a lot of people not fully realizing the shift that everything is taking, and not accepting certain truths of like, well, if it has some sort of compelling title and thumbnail, it'll be more likely that people will discover you. It's not a bad thing. This is a good thing if you can lean into it. Because there's a lot of people who are like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, that's, for some reason, there's like stigma in certain crowds behind it. For sure. And which is funny, because it's like that simple step could be the difference between getting your music heard or not. So it's just like in their heads of like making that stigma that really doesn't need to be there.
I agree. And for me, I also have to say, of course, I would also prefer it if I can call every single song just my artist name and then the song name.
Oh, yeah.
I don't do this for fun. Often it turns out being very fun. And I wouldn't have written any of those songs, because it's with Waterworks, for example, which is the one that worked best. I wouldn't have written the song if it weren't for the whole video idea, and it turned out kind of melancholic because I was getting sad that I'm about to destroy a guitar. And it's sometimes those weird concepts inspire the songs a lot. But of course, I would also prefer to just call it what it is every single week. But as you said, I would much rather get a better result and use something that gets people to click on the video and to also listen to the song. And I hope to see more of that. It would be really, really cool.
If you're a guitar player or bass player, you should really have a copy of Guitar Pro tablature software. I've been using Guitar Pro for like 15 years, and I really can't live without it. At this point, it's sort of an industry standard within the guitar education realm, and it's really easy to use. You can make all your licks and write out all your songs, and you can actually use it in conjunction with ultimateguitar.com, where you can download Guitar Pro files and learn all your favorite songs. So I couldn't recommend this software enough. And if you use the code MikeGP at checkout, you can get 10% off your copy of Guitar Pro 8. That's Mike, MIKE-GP, at checkout, guitar-pro.com.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a consistent theme in the progression of technology, that there are certain people who go, well, this is the new norm, and if I follow what's happening, then I will benefit and I can grow my career or whatever it may be, or like have a better experience, or I can try to push against the current. And then there's some people who I think pushing against that current is somewhat noble. Mm-hmm. But there are certain inevitabilities, I think, where it's like, if this is the direction things are going, you can push against the current, but that current might never give. It might just keep shoving you back. And so it's at some point you're going to have to make that shift into going with the current. And I think some people learn that the hard way. I mean, I know I learned that the hard way. It took me a long time to finally lean into certain things I'm doing now with social media, because for the longest time I thought, you know, there's certain stigmas, and then when you finally let go of those things and start realizing where the technology is and how it can benefit, and certain things you should be doing in order to get eyes on the work you're making, then you realize the results and benefits really fast, and you go, oh, how come I haven't been doing this all along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it for you? If I can ask
teaching. It was teaching.
Okay.
So doing lessons. So for the longest time, I would do exactly what you were like. I wish I could do that. Like I would just make music, and then it would be my name and then song, and I just kept doing that. And I've been teaching for a really long time. It's been my career for most of my well, it's been my career. Yeah. Since I've gotten out of college, and I kind of could kick myself for not making that shift sooner online and really digging into making like fun teaching content to kind of entertain, but also be educational.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of your Patreon, you have a lot of patrons. Like, are you at 10,000 yet?
I think at the moment it's around 9,000 again. I think it's always, as soon as it grows to bigger numbers, there's always months where it's kind of different, where you have a lot of people signing up for some reason. So it's always fluctuating back and forth, but it stays around between 9,000 and 10,000 each month, I think. And that's really, really cool for me, of course, to have that, because what it used to be was kind of an add-on for YouTube. And I think most creators use it that way, to just to be able to say, support me on Patreon or something like this. And for me, I always had a little bit of a different vision with that, because if you give a creator your hard-earned money every single month or once a year, I think there should be a better incentive than support me, make my dream come true. I think that's not really the right way to approach it. So for me, I thought it's really interesting to at least try to turn this into a guitar academy, because people know the platform, and it's easier to say, join my Patreon, for example, because people trust the platform. And I know that from my personal online behavior, I always get suspicious if I go to some website that's not beautifully made and it asks me to enter the credit card details and all of that. So if you know this platform, and everyone knows Patreon by now, who's on YouTube a lot, because everyone has a Patreon page. So I just thought it would be interesting to put actual courses on there, and to release content that's specifically made for Patreon. So not just add-ons for YouTube videos or just random updates or things that aren't that interesting for people, maybe. Not making it about me at all. Making it much more about the community over there, so that people can vote on what they want to see on the platform. Of course, they can leave comments. They can use it pretty much like any other social media platform by now. And people seem to like that a lot, which is very, very cool for me. So I think this shift where I saw some real growth happened when I disconnected it from YouTube, and I upload a completely new video every single week over there that you can watch nowhere else. It's only on Patreon, and that makes it kind of its own thing, where I can just pour all of that educational energy into, and it doesn't have to be connected to the YouTube or Instagram stuff in any way. So that's also something because we have a WhatsApp group actually with a lot of people in the guitar scene on YouTube. Pretty much everyone is in there. Yeah. And they all also have that kind of approach of, Patreon is just for people to support you. Don't put any effort into it. Just put it in your videos and say, if you want to support me on Patreon. But I would actually advise people into taking it a bit more seriously and actually offering something that stands out, if you want to make this your main thing. Of course, if you just want to have a place for people to support you, you can also do that. Just depends on what you would like to do with that platform. Do you have Patreon of too?
Yeah. And I run mine the same way you do.
Cool.
And I think there's several other people who run it the way that you're talking that I've followed. And I've always thought if I did Patreon before I did it, that I would be doing it the way you're talking. Because for me, I was like, this is a perfect outlet. Like because at first before I signed up, I was like, they must take a lot. Like Patreon must take a lot off the top. And then I discovered that they really don't take that much off the top for the creator, as much as I thought anyway. And so then it became that thought of like, how come more people aren't using this as their subscription site, like educators? Because I was talking with a friend about this a long time ago, and he had pointed out, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about making like a subscription site on my website or maybe doing Patreon. And he was like, he had said, why don't you just use Patreon? It's like built in. It is a subscription site and you just use that. And then people trust Patreon and everyone knows it by this point, like you're saying, to where it's like they could go to my website and be like unless it looks really great, they're like, who is this guy? But on Patreon, it's like, I have students, and I'm sure you have the same thing on Patreon, where they're like, oh yeah, I'm a patron of you and this guy. Like, I didn't realize that was a thing until I made a Patreon, and the guy was like, oh, I'm also on Uli John Ross and like this guy's and some other guys. And
or Steve Vai also has a Patreon for now. I mean, this just I think that's a huge thing, the trust issue thing. And I've always also been, I mean, I remember when I started using the internet, there was always this thing, never enter your credit card details. Everything is a scam. So I think maybe that's still kind of the feeling for a lot of people in our generation, that they're kind of careful.
Yeah, especially our generation, and maybe even the generation after, especially. I've had, I've had people even, I think, about the Patreon. I think someone had asked just through a private message, maybe they had, I think it was that, or maybe it was something with PayPal, or it was something like that. Anyway, he had asked like, is there a way I can like, pay cash? And it was like, I was like, I don't think you can't send me a check. I was like, no. He's like, I don't want to sign up for PayPal. And I was like, really? I was like, everyone uses PayPal. I was like, okay. But there's still some stigma around that. Even normal ones like PayPal. That everyone uses. But so how long ago did you start the Patreon?
I think I started around 2019. And I had, I think, around 100,000 followers on Instagram, and I was getting excited about this Patreon idea. And I thought, well, if just, 2% sign up for Patreon, that would be already amazing. And I could do less of that because I was a graphic designer also, and also worked in college. I did the most random jobs ever up until 2015 or 16. So when I started getting more into this, I just thought, if I have a Patreon and I tell 100,000 followers that I have a Patreon, a lot of them will sign up and it will be awesome. And I had in the first week, I think 6 people. And in the second week, maybe there was 1 more and 2 others quit. So I was really not very motivated at the start to actually do this stuff, because I started right away with making dedicated videos for the platform, really, really good videos, the best I could. And the strategy kind of was, I post a short video on Instagram, then I tell people the full lesson is on Patreon. And that absolutely did not work at all. It was kind of devastating. And I quit after a month, just made a post saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. And no one is watching these videos. And I'm making like $10 a month for 2 days of work every single week. And it turned around a lot when I abandoned this approach of, I show you something quick for free, but you get the good thing when you sign up in the Academy on Patreon. I turned that around by just giving people, when I still did educational videos on my channel, which I don't do anymore for 1 year now, I just turned it around by giving people everything they need in the free video, literally everything. And the only thing that was extra on Patreon were some files that were really helpful. For example, play-along videos where I would film myself practicing the exercise from like 40 beats per minute all the way to 200 or something, where it gets really challenging for me, that people can play along with in their routines. Because with the people that follow me, the main frustration is always they don't know what to practice. Also, when you sign up on my Patreon, there are like 300 posts. So I understand that it's kind of difficult to figure out where to start and what to do first. So I just figured out what my audience wants, which is in my case, click on this video, play with me. You can look at me and look at my hands and fingers, and you can mimic what you see. And that worked really well. So that's also something that I make sure to tell everyone who has a Patreon, who's not getting the results that they want. It never really worked for me to do this approach that's often even promoted by Patreon, to say, I give you something kind of okay, and you get the great stuff once you pay. In my opinion, you should give the best stuff that you have and the best quality out for free, and something to add on to that that's also useful on Patreon. That's the best.
Yeah, because I could imagine just thinking kind of like, I'm not a psychologist, but I could think the psychology, psychology could be like, if you're like giving a little bit and be like, get the better stuff here, they'd be like, like F off or whatever like that, as opposed to the opposite where they might be like, wow, that was amazing, I want more, like that type of thing. Because I think there's maybe it's, and because I mean, I think everyone's guilty of doing it, because you're like what you said, they say do that, and I've had people tell me to do that, and I'm like, I just feel like it's a tease, maybe. Yeah. Where you're like teasing people, and then when you say go to my Patreon, they're like, they kind of feel like hurt in a way. So maybe that's it, because that's so funny you say that. It makes me feel a lot better, man, because I had the same exact experience, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out the Patreon thing. But like, yeah, one of my friends was like, oh, I thought you'd have like 100 people sign up right away, because it was like 5 people in the first week. And I was like, oh, it was like 1 a day. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the first time someone left, I was like, I felt like kind of I was like, oh, why did they leave?
It also broke my heart in the beginning.
Yeah, it broke my heart. I was like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And my buddy a good buddy of mine was like, he's like, people go in and out of Patreons all the time. Yeah. He's like, don't take it personally. It was just a curiosity. It was like when you make something $5 or $10 a month, there's a curiosity bug that ticks, and it might be that they signed up and didn't even look at any of it, and then realized, well, I didn't even use it, so I'll just so yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the Patreon thing, because I waited quite a long time. I think I waited till I had like 80 or 90,000 on Instagram. And I mean, I only started at like 7 months ago, 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So waited a bit, and so it's a slow move, but that's interesting that you had a similar experience, and it gives some insight for more people, I guess.
Super slow for me, definitely. It's interesting when you look at the curve, because it's this typical, the compound effect, as it's probably known, where 2, then you have 4, then you have 8, and it just starts going up like this. The only thing that I can share that really helped me is, I think, I didn't get a lot of Patreon subscribers from Instagram, because I still feel like you don't have the best connection with people over there, because it's just usually, I don't know, in the bathroom, a couple of quick videos, that kind of vibe with a lot of reels and all that. I still think the easiest way of getting people to join is providing long form content on YouTube and kind of forming a connection with people. So I've seen much better conversion when I started. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could imagine. So that connection, because of the fact that they're spending more time with you, becomes an episode. Speaking of that connection, there's this topic I always hear people talk about, and that is the comment section, and specifically responding to people. And is that something that you make an effort to, or is it just is there just too many going on? Because I've heard people are like, there's too many comments, and it can be kind of a shit show of weird things people say, so I just avoid it. And I've had other people who are like, oh no, I make an effort, once a day or once a week to go through and respond to everyone.
For me, I don't do that anymore, because As you said, a similar experience to when you lost your first patron. Also, when you get your first hate comment, it's the kind of same reaction that goes on. Yeah, and for me, I do check once in a while just to see, because I want to make people happy with what I do. That's why I kind of do it still. And the easiest way is often checking the, of course, like dislike thing, which got not deleted by YouTube, but people can't see it anymore. But you can see it, of course, in your own dashboard, how many people liked or disliked the video. So I think my channel has something like a 99% average, which is what I'm aiming for, to make people that happy. But at the moment, there are 7 million views a month on the channel, and 1% of those people don't like the videos. And of course, that's a lot of people. The bigger the channel grows, even if it's just that 1%. So what I usually do is I get excited when I post videos, because I work quite a lot on them, and I'm just happy to share them with people. So I still post most of my videos manually on YouTube, so I don't schedule them. When I have time, I really release the video, I sit down and I interact with people for 20-30 minutes as the video goes live, and just seeing if people like it and if I did a good job, so to say, with the video. But aside from that,
do you do live? Do you do the live like post when it's scheduled, and then you have people interact? Right? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I don't do that for some weird reason. I did that twice, I think, and this is one of the things that I'm not proud of. That kind of superstitious element, because all the videos I did with the live thing totally bombed. But that has nothing to do with the Premiere. I think Premiere it's called, with that function. Yeah. I'm sure that does nothing to hurt your video at all. For me, it wasn't a great experience so far. I just post the video and just interact a little bit with people, and I try not to get sucked into that, like opening the YouTube Studio app every couple of hours and reading for all the comments. That's something I don't really want to do anymore. I don't think that's healthy to constantly check that.
Especially
because you
when
will
you're
read some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're getting as many interactions as you are on like YouTube videos, because those are I don't have nearly as many videos that go viral, but like I would say 1 out of every 6 does really well on like, because I'm really focusing on Instagram. But that one, I always have to remember, like, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Because the ones that don't do as well, I feel like they reach my fans, I guess, people who are bigger fans, but not necessarily the wider audience. So it's usually mostly good comments, and so I'll respond to those. But I've noticed, like, if it starts doing really well, I have to remind myself, don't open the app, don't open it, because someone's going to say something stupid. And it could be like, I made the mistake the other night. I was like laying in bed, and of course, opening it up, dumb comment. And I was like, it like woke me up, and I was like, like, idiot. Yep. It's a dangerous rabbit hole. Just better to stay away.
Absolutely. And you gain nothing from that, because usually, I mean, what's great if you come across something and someone really puts thought into a comment saying, hey, I didn't like this because you did this and that. And then you think about it and you actually agree with them. Yeah. And that's really great. And I think you should not completely ignore comments. It's probably also not the right way to do this, because it's good to get some feedback. But with most of the hate comment stuff, I think it doesn't really do that much to me anymore, when you can immediately read, okay, that guy just hates how I look, hates how I speak. Or I also have that sometimes with people. I just don't comment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Doesn't really do.
That's exactly what I think. I was like, why did you say something? Like, I was like, everyone has these thoughts, but like only certain people say them. I gotta say, I particularly enjoyed a specific part of your I Still Shred video. I think it was that one. And it was when all of a sudden you, like, it cut and you were then wearing that really long sweater that goes over your hands. And then you made the comment about sweater that goes over your hands a bit too much. I literally cracked up like out loud because I was like, oh my God, because I've had the same thought.
Yeah, that's a super fun one for me. I only did that twice so far, kind of trying out satirical songs a little bit. I don't want it to go into a negative direction at all. That's not the goal. But for me, it's just fun to, if you're this deep in the guitar scene, just to observe the things that are happening and kind of poking fun just a little bit. I mean, I'm sure there's one coming in a couple of months about the metal scene as well, where I maybe fit in a little bit more because there are plenty of stereotypes to make fun of in every single music genre. So that's something I've been trying out as well. And so far, I think people mostly understood it, that this is not an insult at people. It's just fun when you see all this, when you open up Instagram and everyone wears this exact same sweater that covers the hands. And once you try it yourself, when I played, it's so uncomfortable to play with this thing. And
I've had that thought. That's I didn't think. It's funny because like I when I first saw that trend, I wasn't thinking like that's a stupid shirt. I was more like, how do you play with that? Exactly. I have to like I used to wear like bracelets. I still do, and I can't wear them on my right hand because like it will intrude with my palm muting. Yeah. And anything like if I play with long sleeves, I have to like slightly roll up my right sleeve because I just can't believe how you can play that specifically with palm muting. Mm-hmm. It's just, or like if you're doing fast, like alternate picking stuff, because I don't know if you do this, but I kind of rest my hand on the bridge. Absolutely. And if there's a clothing there, it's like, I don't know how to even accomplish that.
Yeah. I don't want to. I mean, it's a fashion statement, of course.
Yeah.
For me, also the worst shows ever, because this is an Austrian band, and Austria has a lot of pretty miserable winters. And for some reason, they often get booked for those skiing events, because skiing is huge in Austria. Yeah. And every winter I have to play on some kind of mountain where you have to wear 5 T-shirts and 3 jackets. And that's also
hard to play.
Yeah, it's absolutely miserable because the guitars are going out of tune in every song, because there are a lot of acoustic guitar songs and they're just not holding the tuning at all. So it always just reminds me of that kind of feeling of almost I don't think it's that cold in people's apartments that they need to wear this kind of sweater. It's just making things harder. And
yeah, that's the main thing I noticed. Is like that would be hard, as opposed to to each their own as far as fashion goes. But I feel like that would be hard for a guitar player. One question I was going to ask you is: you have the Patreon, mm-hmm. and you have do you have a team, or are doing everything by yourself?
I have kind of a team, I guess. I tried building one at the start of the year, and what I was looking for were marketing agencies, because I don't have time for that, and that's not the most interesting aspect about all that for me. I like the creative stuff a lot, and a lot of people that are more into the business side of things told me that I'm doing relatively well, but I have kind of the wrong approach when it comes to all this, because I work way too much on making new content all the time. And of course, it would be more profitable to take all the Patreon stuff, put that into one course that's really expensive and market that. But to me, that just doesn't feel right, because I actually like that it's affordable and that people can join for $5 and get access to that stuff immediately. So I've been trying to listen to some ideas from people who are more into the business and marketing side of things, but it just didn't work out for me, because that just feels very alien as someone who cares more about the students on the platform than making it super profitable and just milking it as much as possible. So that kind of failed. My idea of building kind of a little bit of a marketing team that's relieving me from the stress a little bit, because as you mentioned, there's fluctuation with Patreon, of course. You lose some people here and there. And in my case, I often start thinking, well, I should put out more lesson content again on my main channel, and then that would probably tank, because through the music there are so many people now that don't even play guitar and have nothing to do with all that. So I'm still looking for, maybe there's one clever guy who understands that stuff and is not too greedy and is only interested in some kind of cut, but into building something interesting here that actually helps people. When it comes to the customer service, I do have support because I can't do that anymore. That's mostly for the homepage, because I also have courses aside from the Patreon. Those are 2 older courses that I recorded, and we have a lot of people signing up for these. And there's always stuff like didn't get the email with the login data, or where do I start this, or the video doesn't load. That's something I can outsource a little bit, because it's not that guitar specific. Doesn't really need me in person to take care of that. And I also have someone who helps with the thumbnails by now, which is the thing that I dread the most, because not because it's not fun. I really enjoy working in Photoshop because I used to be a graphic designer, but to me it's very stressful, because as you know, it's the only thing that makes people click, basically, aside from the video title. So if you have the best video in the world and the worst thumbnail in the world, nobody will see the video at all. So that's something that's really helpful for me, to have someone disconnected from my thought process, and just send him I think 1 hour ago, I sent my thumbnail guy 125 pictures for next week's video, and he will choose 3 of them, I think, that he thinks are the best ones, and I will choose the final one. And you can always cycle through the 3 final ones that you have and see which one performs best. So that's where I try to get some help. But with the video editing, I tried 3 people so far, and sometimes I have someone to edit videos, but it never turns out the way I want it to look. So that's something I struggle with a little bit too, because I know that a lot of people who have a following like me don't do anything except just make the songs and filming the content, and everyone else does the rest, and I'm sure that's great. But I really struggle with that for some reason. So,
I can imagine. Yeah. I can imagine getting, like, you have a vision and then you want to have that vision come to life, and then all of a sudden you get it back from somebody like, that's not what I was thinking.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you spending a lot of time. Oh, sorry, you go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's exactly what you said. Also, not only the aspect I don't like it, also I've been on the other side. I've been a video editor and a graphic designer before that, and I know the feeling when you do a great job and all those people did a great job, and then you send it over and the client is like, this is not what I wanted. And
Yeah.
it's just, it sucks from both sides, and I don't want to be that guy to people, because I know how it feels like. That's the thing.
One of the best things you can do as a musician is to protect your own hearing. I've been using these Eargasm high-fidelity earplugs for months now, and I really love them. They're nice and discreet, high quality, and they don't make any of the sound muffled. They let in the right frequencies that I need on gigs or at shows. You can get 10% off your order if you use code MSALO10 at checkout. That's my first initial M, my last name Salo, SALOW, 10 at checkout to get 10% off your order at eargasm.com.
Yeah. Are you spending quite a lot? But you probably streamlined a lot of the editing as far as like, do you have like templates, or how much of your week are you spending editing compared to? Yeah.
Nowadays, actually not that much anymore. When I did the lesson stuff on YouTube, and those lessons for some reason turned into mini movies, like 15 minutes with all those transitions and all the crazy stuff. That took me a lot of time to edit, and I burned out doing that because I got super frustrated, because I don't want to be a video editor as my main job and side gig guitar player.
Yeah.
That's not what I signed up for. So nowadays I kind of realized that people, at least my audience, does not care at all about all of the fancy video editing and color grading and transitions and animations and all of that. On Patreon, the educational stuff is super straightforward. It's almost uncut, and I try not to say any sentence that doesn't, give some kind of meaning or context to the video. It's just straight into the content. This is what I'm talking about this week. This is the exercise. Watch me play it for 5 minutes and play along with me, and that's it. And people liked it much more than those movies that are made basically out of those exercise concepts. And for my main channel, I only do 2-minute videos anymore. That's kind of or 2 minutes, 20 seconds, something like that. That's the sweet spot for the songs.
Oh,
for people.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of different things. I started out with 7-minute prog songs that didn't work out so great nowadays. And around, I think 2 minutes is, under 2 minutes is a bit short to call it a song. And around 2 minutes, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, that's the sweet spot. And it's relatively easy to cut those videos because it's just performance stuff. I have 2 cameras set up and cut back and forth between them. So today I filmed, mixed and recorded a video for both YouTube for next week and also for Instagram. So it takes 1 day for those main videos nowadays, which is okay.
And then
I can live with that.
yeah. Is that so when you go about, so the YouTube and the Instagram, they're the same theme or same topic that you're talking about, like for this new one. Are you so when you plan, do you plan out your week and go like, all right, so Thursday is when I am going to have this ready to record and sit down and make the video happen? Or are you really just going, are you planning out the week in that way? Or are you really, whenever the one step gets done, I move to the next step?
I have it relatively planned out because on Monday is kind of the day that feels like going to work the most, if there's anything, if there's a feeling like that at all, because I spend Sunday usually not doing too much, maybe playing just a little bit for fun, which is something you have to remember to do. I think that it's not just work. So Monday feels a little bit like going back to work for me. So that's when I do the Patreon video and all of the stuff that feels a bit more like work or a bit more professional, I guess. And I usually get all of that stuff done in 1 day. And the rest of the week is all about YouTube videos for the main channel. And those are a little bit difficult to plan sometimes because you need, or at least I need, to think really, really hard about what could work on the platform. And sometimes you're ready, it's Tuesday morning, you're ready to shoot the video, but you don't have an idea yet. And for me, it makes, I fell into the trap quite a lot until recently to just give in to the pressure that you completely unnecessarily make for yourself, that you feel like you have to record now because it's Tuesday, you have to get it done as soon as possible. Just think of some random idea and try to make the video as great as you possibly can. It's going to work anyways, and it never does. So sometimes I just have to sit down for a couple of hours and really think hard and brainstorm different ideas. Other times it just comes out immediately, but that's something I try not to rush, like to have a super strict schedule that says, okay, on Tuesday you have to do the song and the YouTube video. If I don't have the idea, then I won't do it on Tuesday anymore, because I feel like there's a lot of unnecessary pressure that we feel as content creators, that we have to stay in this weekly rhythm, which I also do. I'm also guilty of that. But if you feel like you don't have a great idea, at least I personally always did regret putting all the work into an idea that's not so great, just to kind of fulfill that upload schedule, that imaginary important upload schedule.
Yeah.
Because if you would subtract all the videos that I did that did not do that well on YouTube, it wouldn't make that much of a difference, because all the big videos are what drives the subscribers and the listeners to Spotify and all that. So for me, I'm in this weekly schedule right now, mainly because I want to try it out on Spotify and on the streaming platforms, what that's like as an artist to take 1 year and really release a song every single week. And there's going to be a YouTube video about that at the end of the year, where I just go into the analytics a little bit, and just a video about the experiment in general, if I would recommend that to artists who want to try it out, or if it's just absolute burnout, which at the moment it doesn't look like it. It's actually pretty fun still. But yeah, it's roughly planned out, but I can't really force the idea process. That's the main difficulty with having a super planned out schedule for me.
Yeah. And I suppose, getting up at 4:30 really gives you that extra time. So are you practicing like every morning, or like are there mornings where you are like going, oh wow, I need to get this thing done, or is practice a priority in the morning?
That's the first thing I do every day except for Sunday, where I sleep in a little bit to recover. But for me, that was pretty life-changing, and it's not just a get up early thing that has become like a mega online cliche by now, like the grind hard, get up early, all of that stuff. For me, it's not really about that. It was just always very difficult for me to fit my practice time in during each day, because I always felt like I should work on the next video instead to get this done, or I should do this instead. But when I get up at 4:30 and practice for 2 or 2.5 hours and do my emails and all of that, and do a little workout and have breakfast, when I'm done with all that, it's like 8 or something, or 8 or 9. And that's where the day usually starts for most people, I guess. Yeah. And I also feel like, okay, my work day starts and I got all of this stuff done already. That's the approach that works best for me, because I don't feel like I should be doing something else while I'm practicing, because it's so early. It's just psychologically, it's some kind of trick that works for me.
Right, where it's like, yeah, you're not like, oh, it's the middle of the workday, I can't be practicing.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. So that makes sense. I've thought about doing it myself. I've thought about it, and I just haven't pulled the trigger. So this is more in line with lifestyle questions, but like in that getting up at 4:30, the two things that come to mind, because I think like, oh, if I did that, the first thing is sleep. So are you like, do you get like a good amount of sleep during the week, or are you kind of run down by the end of the week?
Absolutely. I mean, I go to bed very early, usually at 9 p.m., but sometimes even at 8:30 p.m. I mean, getting sleep is really, really, really important, especially for, I think, the creative aspect, because it's just super hard to squeeze something out of your brain when you're very tired.
Yeah.
And if you do that 6 days in a row, you won't have great ideas or a lot of energy to do all of that stuff. So I definitely don't want to promote any kind of unhealthy lifestyle with that. And I'm sure that there are people who get more done than me, that work way into the night, that get up at, 2 p.m. or something, and just work until the sun comes up. And I think that's more common with producers or editors, because it's kind of a work you can totally zone out and do that stuff. But with the practicing and all that, I think it helps me the most, not only with the schedule, but also with just being very focused when it's the first thing you do while you get up, and not just kind of going through the motions and not really paying attention because it's been a hard day. So that's the best thing for me when it comes to all that. And also just really the feeling, I mean, maybe you will try it one day. I can really recommend it. It was a bit difficult to get into it. Just the first week is kind of weird, because you feel like you're catching some kind of strange flight every day where you have to be at the airport at 8 or something. But I really, really enjoy it. And of course, the only exception is on tour. I can't do that at all because the show times are pretty late. It's like 10, 11 p.m. or later. So I don't want to play bad shows just to prove a point and get up 4 hours after playing.
Yeah.
That's also not. So for anyone who feels like this doesn't fit in the schedule at all, I don't think it's a necessity at all to get things done, to get up early. It's really just, as you said, lifestyle.
Yes, the lifestyle. Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of people who it kind of depends on where your lifestyle is at too, like what you do in the evenings, if you have kids, if you're married, that can all, I think, change people's, which actually brings me to my other question, which maybe it doesn't even affect you. Do you live with your significant other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, you do. So that was my next question of like, when you get up at 4:30, are they like, alarm? Like, does it bother them at all? Because I noticed that, like, if I get up earlier than my girlfriend, she's always like, turn your alarm off. She's like, why are you up so early?
With me, I'm pretty lucky that she has a very deep sleep. So most of the time she doesn't realize that I'm getting up, but she's also getting up relatively early. So for her, it's not that bad. And she did it for a long time with me. She just found that it adds absolutely nothing to her life. So it doesn't make any sense for her to do that. She just gets up a bit later. And right now she's still working as a tattoo artist, and this is a really draining job, especially for the body, which I didn't know before I actually watched her. When you tattoo like 10 hours a day, and you're hunched over a little bit over the customer, it's never comfortable to tattoo. It's not like you're sitting in a perfectly balanced chair and just drawing on your desk. It's a very different experience. So she really needs a lot of energy, and also comes home pretty late. So it doesn't bother her that much because she has a deep sleep, but I don't think that she will join me in this rhythm anytime soon again for now.
Yeah, man. Great. So you had mentioned, well, I think I saw a post, and this, you know, if you don't want to talk about this is totally fine, but you had mentioned that you had completely cut off alcohol too. I think I saw on a post. Was that a big game changer for you?
Absolutely. For sure. That's really, really important for me as well. And I really like to talk about it. I just don't want to risk sounding preachy. That's not what I'm going for at all. For me, it was just one of the things that always stood in the way of doing what I want to do. Because when I started out with this whole YouTube thing and with taking guitar very, very seriously, and music and all of that, I struggled a lot with getting into the schedule that I'm in right now. I always had the feeling that this is the right way to do it, and I really want to go all in and do nothing else, to just do that stuff all day, every day. And whenever I had a phase where I got into it and I started practicing more, I made better music and better videos. There was just, you would go on a tour, and on tour there's someone, at least one guy, who's in the mood for partying every single day, because right now I think there are like 20 or 30 people in the production, and it used to be 2 tour buses full of people, and there's always a couple of guys who want to party, and if you have a hard time saying no, you will be partying every single day. That's just how it is. And it was getting really unhealthy for me to do that, not only for my body, also for my mind, because it always took me out of this mindset, because I would get into the practicing, the video making, all of that good stuff, and then I would have maybe 1 or 2 nights in a row where I was out just getting wasted. Then you need another day to recover, and once you finish the recovery phase, you're back at the start, and you don't feel like getting up early anymore. So it's always felt like it's impossible to maintain the life or the productivity that I want to have if there are always these 1 or 2 days that completely throw me off. Because I wasn't really that kind of alcoholic that you imagine when you hear the word, which is a guy that starts drinking when he gets out of bed every single day
Yeah.
and drinks the entire day and has to drink in order to get work done and all that. It was never that for me. I always had my work ethic similar to the way I have it right now. For me, it was just always difficult. For example, after a gig or when you're celebrating something, just to say, okay, I've had enough. It would just last way too long. And I just didn't want to go because it was always psychologically for me, it's gonna be even more fun if you have another drink. And it's gonna be even more fun if you have a drink after that. And it would just never stop. And I would always have just these days that threw me off completely. And once I got rid of that, I've been living like this for, I guess, 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. I always forget. And it's just been great. I feel much better. I think I look much better when I look at myself I didn't change anything in my diet at all, not really. And I just lost so much weight because if you drink a lot of beer, that's how you gotta look. So it's nothing but positive. It's been nothing but positive effects so far with all that. I mean, the social aspect suffers a little bit, of course, when you don't go out anymore. But I mean, we do go out, of course, but you just realize that you have a lot of drinking buddies that are not your real friends. That's the first realization, that you just met a lot of people to drink so that you don't drink alone. Yeah. This is not really a friendship at all. But aside from that, it's been great, and I really can recommend it. And I'm not on the whole alcohol is bad bandwagon at all. I mean, I know that it works for a lot of people, that they can just go out and enjoy a really good whiskey or have 2 beers or something like that. But for me, it was always just total annihilation all the time, which is not healthy in the long run, even if it's just like 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah. Because I've seen the people you're talking about, that have who can really just, are really into bourbon or something, and or whiskey, and they'll just have one. And I'm sort of the same as you are, where it's like, go out, have a little bit of fun. I'm like, ooh, one more,
exactly.
one more. Yeah. And it's something that I've been very conscious of over the past probably year, and COVID didn't help. So it's always very interesting to hear someone's story in that regard. But yeah, man, this has been great. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you. For me, I can't stop talking about all this stuff, everything guitar, creativity related. It's just super fun for me.
Oh, great, man. Yeah. So, you are doing your first solo tour. So, and I don't know if I caught that at the beginning. So if you want to talk about that, we can definitely end on that note, sure, about your upcoming solo tour and where that is and when that's taking place.
That's super interesting for me because it's a big social experiment. And once again, I'm trying to kind of prove a point with it, because for most quote unquote YouTube musicians that I talk to, there's this disconnect that people often have. Maybe you feel that sometimes as well, that all the views and the likes and all of that are just numbers on the screen, kind of. And you often forget that those are actually people. And in the case of musicians, actually people that would go out and see you play live. So those are not just some random numbers you're watching every day. It's an actual audience you have if you do that. And this is my first time trying it out, and it's a European tour. I'm coming to Germany, France, Italy, where else? The Netherlands, of course. And the tour dates are everywhere where you can find me. It's pretty much the first thing you see. It's the YouTube banner. It's pretty much everywhere. And I've annoyed people a lot by now talking about it. And it's going to be really exciting for me to try not only to play the songs live, but also to reenact the videos a little bit, because if I play Waterworks, I also have to do the water thing, of course. And we're currently still figuring out how we could do this without destroying
a guitar every night.
Exactly. So we have some pretty interesting solutions for all of those videos to actually do that live. And I'm also giving away a guitar every single day, which is going to be nice. People had to send in videos It was a solo contest, and we are bringing big LED walls so that we can, on one hand, that I can jam with other people from YouTube to do those collabs in real life, which is kind of cool because I can't fly everyone in.
Yeah.
It's not in the budget yet for a tour like this. So that's something we're doing. I can also show just the winners of the contest on the big screen and invite them on stage to give them their guitar. And I just hope to see more musicians doing that, because there's still this kind of stigma of the bedroom musician on YouTube who's never going out to play live.
Yeah, there's that. That's another thing I actually was really admire about you, because you're still going out and playing. Because a lot of guys, they either stop or they don't do it. And I think it's I think it's very important as a musician to, I mean, I've had this conversation where it's like one or the other, like either be recording music and making music or be playing music on stage. Even better, do both.
For sure. It's the biggest challenge in the world for me, because there's always something that won't go as planned. When you do that, it's a huge reality check all the time, because when you make videos that are super virtuosic, of course, you got more than one take to record those videos at home. But once you're on stage, you will have to play that, the stuff that you wrote. And I've been rehearsing since the beginning of the year for over 8 months. Every single day, I've played the set twice, sometimes 3 times, to actually do that on stage. I hope I will be able to do that. It's the first time that I'm playing that kind of music live, because the band that I'm playing for right now has some very tricky guitar solos, because I get to write those myself. But a huge majority of the set is pop/rock music. So that's not that hard to play live, and it's a lot of fun. You can just walk around the stage, and we've been playing those songs for 10 years, so it's starting to get a bit easy. And this is not what my tour is going to be like at all. And just kind of this is a thing for me, which is a first building block of just branching out, having this YouTube channel where I make that music, but also I definitely want to do that live. And I'm perfectly aware that this is not an arena or stadium act like the one that I'm playing for, this pop band. This is more of a niche thing, but I'm still super, super excited about it. Also about the possibility that I can host a guitar clinic before every show, because most people coming are probably guitar players. It's safe to say. Yeah. So I get to do 1.5 hours, just a guitar clinic for everyone that gets a VIP ticket, just sitting down with people, talking about stuff that I discussed on the channel, and finally answering some personal questions as well, which is something that people really want, because everyone has a different frustration when it comes to guitar playing.
Yep.
And after that, I get to play 1.5 hours every night, just songs from the YouTube channel, also the collaborations. Like I did a metal song with David Hasselhoff, for example, which is kind of weird for most people. I'm gonna play that one, of course, and we will have it on stage, on the screen at least. And also the solo I did with Tool last year with the progressive metal Icons.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was nice, but only the people that were actually at the venue really saw it, because they have a no phones policy. So yeah, there's just one really bad phone video that survived and that made it onto YouTube. So I get to do that live. So I think it's gonna be cool. So
yeah, man.
I hope so, at least.
Are you doing full band, or is it backing tracks?
For now, we decided on doing kind of a compromise, because I don't want to just stand on stage myself and only play the backing tracks. I know that that's kind of boring to watch, but for now, since this is kind of a test run and we have no idea how this will go, I also can't bring a full band with me. So I have one guy with me on stage who's a multi-instrumentalist who can do a lot of different stuff, and he's also a light designer and special effects designer. He's doing all of these crazy. He did the Wacken headliner, Heaven Shall Burn. He made the whole stage pyro and all of. He does that stuff mostly, So he's controlling the light show that we made especially for every single song from the stage. He's also playing keyboard. He's also singing backup vocals. He has some percussion stuff. So he's also got to have a hard time with all of that. And we hope to kind of bridge the gap a little bit between, okay, this is not just kind of a playback show with one additional guitar layer above. And it's also not a full band. It's kind of, a mix, but of course the goal is definitely doing it with a band. And I already talked to a friend who has an even bigger YouTube channel, who's a bass player. I don't know if you know Charles, the crazy bass player on YouTube. Yeah,
from UK, right?
He's living in Boston now, but
yes.
He's from the UK, exactly. Yeah. And we want to do a tour in the States together next year. If I have my visa by then, I don't know how that will work out. So I kind of see that in the future, just different people that have a YouTube following uniting and just doing basically a regular tour that you see with bands where you don't have just one artist, you have more than one band usually, at metal shows at least. So that's something I'm really excited about, that I would love to see. Just a tour of, I would love to ask Ola, of course. Someone like Ichika, who I admire a lot. He has a really cool style. Just putting together almost like a little guitar festival that's touring. Sure. That would be really cool.
That would be really cool. Yeah. One last question before I let you go here. I'm curious about this Tool thing.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It was the most random thing ever for me because I just got an Instagram DM from Adam Jones. And
he's very prevalent. He's in the guitar scene because I know he follows a lot of people, and he's popped into my stuff too. So I was wondering if it was that awesome. Adam. He's a big guitar fan, and he's kind of going around. Yeah.
For sure. And he has a long history of supporting artists. He recently sent a guitar, I think, a super expensive custom guitar, to a fan, because he liked the Tool covers that she was posting. So he's the nicest guy I've ever met in the professional music scene. And at first I thought it was fake, because it's just literally the first thing I think he wrote was just, hey, we're going on tour in Europe, you want to play a solo? It was kind of weird. that can't be real. But it was actually him, and he just followed the account and also watched a lot of, and still watches a lot of the YouTube videos, which is kind of crazy. And he's just one of those. I've also visited him in Los Angeles now in April. I went to his house and we talked a really long time about everything just guitar related. He's just as nerdy as I am, with even more when it comes to equipment and sounds and all of that. That's something that I don't get into that much. I've always been more about just playing, practicing and all that, but he's a genius when it comes to soundscapes and creating atmosphere, especially on stage, and all those pedals and all of that stuff. So he just invited me basically to play with them. And it was kind of nerve-wracking, not the show itself, that was super fun, but everything leading up to it, because he has a lot of Instagram DMs. So I wouldn't get an answer for like 5 days sometimes, because he has lots of other things to do than talk to me, of course. He's very, very busy. So as the date was approaching, I was kind of like, hey, what am I supposed to play? And I wasn't sure if it's happening at all. And he would get back a couple of days later saying, yeah, this song. I was like, okay, which section do you want me to play on? And it was all very last minute. But
did you improvise, or did you write a solo?
I did. I want to make sure to record a video before and to send it over to him, because I know those situations where you come to the sound check and you're super proud and this is what I'm gonna play, and then it's always like, let's do a different song. So it's always very spontaneous, this situation. So I just wanted to make sure to record a video and to structure a solo in blocks. I didn't want it to sound too composed, but it was basically a lot of building blocks that I could swap out, or just take some of them out to make it shorter, or have some prepared to make the solo longer, because that's most of the time you have something like that with, it was cool, but make it longer, make it shorter. So just to have a rough guideline for the performance. And I showed it to Danny, and they both liked it because they like this old school shredding stuff. So I kind of composed it around that a little bit, some modern stuff in there, but a lot of old school, super fast, crazy stuff. That's just fun. And I think it worked out pretty well. I got to play it once with them at soundcheck. I almost missed it because I didn't find the entrance of the venue. And I made a video about it on YouTube. It was super chaotic, but it was a super, super important, one of the most important evenings for me. And I still have the drum head right here. I don't know if you can see it.
I see that. Yeah.
That's Danny's drum head, and they all signed it. It says, "Thanks, BERNTH, for jamming with us," and all of that. So the nicest people ever. And they really made me feel like I'm a part of the band for one day. It was not like, you should be happy that you play with us. And I don't know why Adam invited you. And because I made up all of these scenarios in my head already before it happened, that they actually don't want me there and it's all that. But it's just super nice. And it really felt like if you would text me, "Hey, I'm playing there and there, you wanna," or just like with the podcast now, "You want to come on the podcast?" Yeah, of course. Yeah, nice, cool.
Yeah.
So there's no kind of rock star element at all to it, which is something I really, really admire, because they sure deserve to act like that if they wanted to. With all their success.
Yeah,
they don't.
That's really cool, man. That's that would be very cool, very intimidating, but very cool.
Yeah, so for me, it's just a reminder that you never know who's actually watching your videos. And that's one of the coolest thing for me about this whole social media thing, that I think a lot of people got great gigs through that already.
Yeah, definitely. It's happened to several of my friends who've gotten good gigs through social media.
Cool.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so because I still have a lot of people who are great players and very active in this I guess standard musical environment of just touring, doing studio jobs and all that, and they're very opposed to social media because they see it once again as the bedroom guitarist stigma thing, and don't really see beyond that you reach a lot of people and you potentially can also succeed in a completely different field once people know about your playing. You will need to know somehow. Yeah,
I think it can at the least grow your circle of not only your peers but also client and people that you can work with, either if you're an educator or a musician or a gigging musician. I don't see the harm in it. It seems like a very positive thing to do in order to grow even further. I think it's great. It can be stressful, and it can be. I think some people also maybe like to just disconnect themselves from social media entirely, because just the stigma of social media in general, and the overstimulation maybe.
Yeah.
But learning how to be. I think Gary V maybe said this about, he was, I think he had said something along the lines of like, be a creator, not a consumer of the social media. So essentially meaning, don't consume the stuff on social media, but put as much out there as you can. And,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Cause I mean, it's really easy to go down. You maybe know, like, because I've even had to realize recently, I've been saying to my girlfriend, I was like, I think I'm going to get a second iPad. And I was like, and I think I'm going to keep it away. And I'm just going to airdrop everything to that iPad when I'm ready to post, and then put that away. Because having stuff on my phone is just so like, it's a click away, and it just distracts me so bad. It's like a trance sometimes. Where you just go, I got to get this. What am I doing? And so, I can see that being a stigma too, of like, I just want to stay away from it. But I think if you can control those urges of consuming too much, there's a lot of positive to using it. You can attest to, of course.
Absolutely. I'm super happy that I did this, and this was never the plan or anything to get there. I think 3 or 4 years ago, I had like on YouTube maybe 1,000-2,000 subscribers, and I think next time it will be 1 million already. And
That's
it
crazy.
was never really a goal that you can write out. In 3 years, I will have this amount of subscribers or something like this. It's just something that it's not something that just happens because you do have to make some videos to make it happen.
Yeah,
But
and
it was,
there's a curating, and I imagine there's a lot of trial and error throughout the way.
yep, absolutely. So that's the thing that Mr. Beast always says, that he just made thousands of videos that were terrible, but he learned just a couple of things from every failure, and now he knows more than anyone in the world
Yeah.
about what makes a great thumbnail and a great title. So for him, he also just says it's just skill, and he could, if I would know what he knows, I would have a viral hit every single week and not once a month, or pretty much every single day with the shorts he's doing and all of the TikTok stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we just
That guy's
a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, yeah, that
Exactly.
guy's insane. Well, man, I have to get going here, but I really appreciate you being on. I would love to have you on again sometime in the future.
For sure.
Yeah, man, and let me know when you're in the States. I'm in the middle of nowhere, in the very dead center in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, okay.
Midwest. Are you familiar with Minneapolis?
I think I've been there. I only did 2 US tours so far, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't remember much, but I know the name at least.
yeah. It's like dead center north, Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Prince town is where Prince is from. That's the claim to fame.
Cool.
For our town anyway. But yeah. Let me know if you're ever around. It's exciting that you'll be here. I'm sure that's, something that's got to be probably one of the bigger changes.
For sure.
Can't imagine having that big of a shift moving in that way. So best of luck to you in that.
Thank you very much. If I get the visa, I will see you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's see.
Yeah. All right, man. Cool. I'll let you go here. I appreciate being on.
Thank you very much.
All
Hope
right.
to see
have a
you
good
soon
one.
again.
Yeah, you too.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
If you'd like to join my Patreon to get your questions answered by the guests, then you can go to patreon.com/Mike Salo. There are several tiers there that you can take part in, and lots of different perks like pre-recorded guitar lessons or even one-on-one guitar lessons with me. There are live masterclasses every week for certain tiers. And again, you can go to patreon.com/Mike Salo to check that out.